now we have our next speaker, Dr. Ajai Mathur. Dr. Ajai Mathur is a very well-known figure in the area of energy sustainability and climate change. So let me just provide a brief biography of Dr. Ajai Mathur. Dr. Mathur holds the office of the Director General at the International Solar Alliance in New Delhi. He leads the operations and carries out the functions of the ISA Secretariat and responsible to the ISA Assembly. Prior to joining ISA, Dr. Mathur was Director General of the Energy and Resource Institute, or TERI as we know. At TERI, he has spearheaded the move to accelerate action towards low carbon and cleaner economy through the promotion and adoption of renewable energy and green hydrogen in the Indian electricity sector, which has resulted in enhanced efficiency in buildings and industry. He has also promoted environmental quality through institutional and other policy measures to enhance the air quality across the country through adoption of resource efficiency and waste cycling measures. And he has also spearheaded the policy formulations in biotechnology-based solutions, especially for agricultural and industrial environment improvement. With this brief introduction to Dr. Mathur, may I now request Dr. Mathur to kindly share his screen. Dr. Mathur, would you like to share your screen yourself, or?
Yeah, I think I can do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ashish. I first of all want to thank you and IIT Kanpur for this invitation. I also want to say how delighted I am to be at the Chandrakant Kesavan Center. Dr. Kesavan spoke about his mother, which is something I also wanted to speak about. But it is delightful that thanks to Dr. Kesavan's support, we have been able to create this center looking at energy issues, looking at environmental issues, looking at climate issues at IIT Kanpur. I am sorry that I am not with you in person. The assembly of the International Solar Alliance is being held from Monday next, and that has unfortunately 2 days ago led to the situation where I decided I could not travel out of Delhi today. However, thanks to this opportunity to work together, particularly through remote and video mechanisms, I'm delighted to be with you. I will today want to focus largely on solar, but more specifically on 5 key issues. So the first message that I want to leave with you is that solar and battery prices are declining, and declining fast. The second is that solar and storage will be the cheapest form of electricity in most markets in the world by 2030, and we will see a further decline of maybe more than 40% by 2050, which implies that effectively after 2030 or even before that, by 2027, 28, in this country, we will not see any more fossil fuels being used for electricity generation. The third point that I want to leave you with is that in the longer term, by 2070 or so, we would expect that solar plus storage would be the mainstream of the electricity economy of most countries in the world, including India. In India, we expect that something of the order of 60 to 70% of the electricity generation, much like what is occupied by coal today, will be occupied by solar storage. And the last point that I wanted to make related to the capacity to create these solar panels and batteries. We see that we are seeing choking points as far as supply chains are concerned. We are seeing that the price increase in solar panels is occurring because of these supply chain constraints. And consequently, as the use of solar occurs globally, we will need a more diversified production of solar cells, and this implies the need for incentive structures within countries to attract manufacturing. So that's the general message that I wanted to go. Let me share a few slides to be able to provide a background and some amount of focusing on the key messages. So the first point that I wanted to make is that solar PV is now the cheapest form of electricity in most parts of the world. In India, solar electricity is available at 1.99 rupees per kilowatt hour at the bus bar. By contrast, coal electricity is available at 3.5 rupees per kilowatt hour. I would stress, however, that this is only during the day. And consequently, at night, as Dr. Jain mentioned a few moments ago, we do focus on fossil fuel-based, coal-based electricity, meeting this need during the rest of the hours. This means that the importance of storage facilities is immense. We have seen a great decline in prices. The prices that you see here are of cells. The cell price has, by 2018, had dropped to $180. Today it is somewhere in the vicinity of about $50 or $70, something of that sort, 2021. Battery prices are a little higher, but battery prices have dropped by about 90% between 2010 and 2021. Batteries are cells put together, and we have seen a huge improvement in how the conglomeration of cells occurs into batteries. The Solar Energy Corporation of India has put out a tender for the largest battery facility in the world at 1,000 megawatt hours of battery capacity, and this would probably lead to both the institutionalization of electricity, of battery storage within the Indian electricity system. Remember that battery facilities are users of electricity during the day when they are charged by solar electricity, and are net producers during the night when they are adding to the electricity. Now this is unheard of. You can imagine that the grid management and grid regulatory functions are completely changed as batteries come into the system. I would also argue here that at IIT Kanpur, you need to start telling students on this electricity economy of the future. There are no machines here. Electrical engineering is largely about machines. But this is very different, and consequently we need to be able to address, we need to have people who can address this in the years to come. Let me move to the next slide. The next point that I wanted to make was that this means that by 2020, we already have a fair part of the world, India, China, etc., where solar is cheaper. But by 2030, in most of the world, solar will be cheaper, and by 2050, there will be a further price reduction of at least 40%, if not 60%. Which therefore implies that somewhere in the 2027 to 2030 time period, solar plus batteries will be the cheapest form of electricity in most parts of the world, and certainly in India. What does this mean for the energy transition? It implies that while coal is necessary at night today, starting 2027, the amount of coal that is used will start declining. We will have no more capacity additions, and by about 2030, 2035, we will start seeing a plateauing of coal use, but an increase in solar. Now, in the long run, by 2050 or so, solar will coexist with biomass, it will coexist with wind, it will coexist with hydro and with nuclear. Nevertheless, we expect that solar plus storage would be about somewhere in the vicinity of 60 to 70% of the total market. This is approximately where coal is today. So, between now and 2050, we expect a large reversal primarily on economic grounds. We are already seeing that we are seeing the share of PV drop to the share of PV increased from approximately 0% in 2015 when the Paris Agreement occurred to something of the value of about 6 to 7% today in this year 2021. And we expect it to go up to somewhere like 30% by 2030 and possibly, as I said, 60 to 70%. This is largely based on the kinds of evolution that we have seen in the Indian market. And you see the solar PV least cost of energy supply range, which is very much now in the range of coal-based systems as well. And batteries obviously pull this down further. And that is why we are talking of the 65 to 90% in most geographies around the world. Now, all of this is great, but it also comes with a certain number of challenges. Yes, technology is a challenge. We recently saw a news item that approximately 30% efficiency battery had been created in the lab. For it to be converted into commercial practice would be about 5 years, but we are on the brink of amazing increases, because if you see efficient batteries and you see bifacials together, we are talking of 40% plus efficiencies occurring. This implies that costs decline, the amount of land area declines as well. Now the challenges are coming from another area, and that is the supply of solar panels. Today, 85% of the solar panels originate from China. While this has helped the world reduce prices because of scale of production and the ecosystem of production that has occurred in China, the problem occurs because as these panels move across the world, the freight is the choking point. The graph on the right shows freight price. Now, you see the huge change in freight prices over the last 1 year. And this has obviously shown itself as a 10 to 15% plus increase in the price of solar panels that are available in most geographies, including India. This has huge implications. What this implies is that supply chain choke points are extremely dangerous as we move towards a technology which we are seeing a global takeoff of. Where does this take us? The implication is that you would need to have geographically diversified manufacturing across the world so that the supply chain distances are minimized. Now, as we look into this, and we will be coming out with a report on this towards the beginning of next year, we see that there are at least 3 major components in the manufacturing process. The first is silicon is made to polysilicon. The second is the polysilicon is made into cells and wafers. And the third is that the cells are made into modules. And the economies of scale at each level are very different. They are huge at the level of polysilicon to silicon, which is why we expect that not more than 10, somewhere between 5 and 10 countries in the world will have silicon to polysilicon facilities. As far as polysilicon to cells is concerned, we probably see somewhere like 30, maybe as high as 50, but somewhere in between 30 and 50 countries develop the facility to import polysilicon and convert it into cells. Consequently, already you are seeing that with the expansion of polysilicon facilities, the supply of polysilicon to the cell manufacturing, the distances would have decreased and the volumes for each go would increase. The third is the manufacture of modules. Now, cells to modules is probably something that will occur in almost every geography, almost every country. There will be some countries where you may have regional production, but by far and large it will be globally distributed. So again, we are seeing that cells from the closest point of cell manufacture to all the countries, we will see supply chains reduced. Consequently, as the demand for solar cells become global, so will the necessity for manufacturing. However, this comes with a challenge. And that challenge has to do with the fact that this is where, the price, say, of today in the market of polysilicon or of solar cells or of modules is, say, 100. When new plants come in and manufacture, they produce at something like 110. This means that incentives are needed to draw in manufacturing into particular jobs. We have seen models of these come up. In the US, there is the Inflation Reduction Act. In India, there is the production-linked incentive. But both of these are looking at ways in which incentive can be provided to manufacturers to establish geographically diverse manufacturing. And we will probably see more of this occurring. We have seen some of this occurring in other countries as well, in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in Nigeria, but more often it is about replicating what is already there. What we are now talking of is not only just replicating, but also providing an incentive for more efficient cells to be produced in the years to come. These are two models in which we see a reward, an incentive for tomorrow's cells to be more efficient than today's cells. So as we move ahead, we are therefore looking at a challenge in which we are therefore looking at both the utilization, the deployment on one side and the manufacturing on the other side. Together, we believe that this has the potential to completely change the energy economy, or at least the electricity economy of tomorrow, which would imply that the energy economy would change as well. I want to thank IIT Kanpur and the Kesavan Center for this invitation, and I look forward to visiting you in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mathur.